Have you ever played Pop the Lock? It's a simple timing-based game that's all hand-eye coordination. I've been seeing it everywhere over the past few years at arcades. So, where did it come from? Before it became the arcade game we know it as today, Pop the Lock began as a mobile game developed by Simple Machine. It made its debut on the Apple Store September 10, 2015, which was followed by a Google Play release September 30th of that same year. The game itself tasks you with having your red bar line up with the randomly appearing yellow dots on the circumference of the lock. The way you progress in Pop the Lock follows your conventional mobile game system by having the player progress through levels, where each level increases the difficulty from the previous. In this game, it is done by increasing the speed and the amount of dots you must hit before advancing to the next level. Like most mobile games, this one is littered with ads. Be sure to play offline or pay to remove them for a better experience. There are even unlockable skins to change the appearance of your lock, which are unlocked by getting stars that periodically appear on the yellow dots. As an aside, the first time I played the app, the shop glitched. It let me keep buying skins, sending my balance into the negative. And that's pretty much it. A simple but well-presented gameplay loop that players could easily pick up and play. The success of Pop the Lock is evident with how the Google Play listing currently has over 10 million downloads. Naturally, this success led to the arcade adaptation that we see it as today. The rights for Pop the Lock were licensed to Baytech Games for the arcade version. I wasn't able to find an exact date of release, but the earliest footage I could find was the official trailer from the manufacturer dated November 28, 2016. When examining the gameplay, it stays true to the mobile game's core gameplay of using your red stick to hit the randomly placed yellow dots. The stars from the mobile game are present here, but now they give bonus tickets. The main change in gameplay is seen in the departure from the level-based system and a new formula where the player must successfully hit all 50 dots consecutively. The jackpot amount is a number that is decided by the arcade. This amount is typically correlated to the economy of the arcade itself and follows similarly to other redemption games and what is being charged in the prize room. In my experience, I have seen this game issue jackpots at values of 250 points or more commonly at the default of 500. But according to the manual, the number could be anywhere from 50 to 2,000. Despite this, I have seen examples online that are outside of this range. The difficulty system is an expected method by which the game ramps up the speed with every successful yellow dot you hit. This is visually indicated by how the game machine itself will change colors. Before you even start playing, the game is a bright pink. This changes to green once credits are paid, but once you start playing, the color changes with every 10 dots you hit. The difficulty itself, however, is actually determined by the arcade. There are hidden values in the game that determine the dial speed and dial acceleration. These names might sound redundant, but they behave differently. The dial speed adjusts the overall game difficulty, which means it decides how much slower or faster your red line moves. Now the dial acceleration only affects the final 10 yellow dots, amplifying the speed even further. If you have played this game at different locations and found the game to be faster or slower when comparing your experiences, this is why. The arcade can decide to change these settings if they find the game is paying too often or very rarely. If the player misses a yellow dot, that's game over. However, some arcades may allow the player to continue and try for what the manual calls a continue jackpot. This reduces the payout and allows the player to pay for a game that continues from where they left off. This setting is not always on, so this option depends on how your arcade has configured their version of Pop the Lock. The game also has a mercy system where the game will pause and allow the player to try again if they miss one of the first few dots. When discussing the gameplay strategy, not much can be said since this is a fairly honest, skill-based redemption arcade game. Having a good reaction time is crucial to winning, so be sure to practice. Don't be discouraged if you lose a lot when you're learning this game. One helpful tip would be to minimize all possible distance between your hand and the button. This is done by having your hand directly on the button, but not applying any force until you intend to hit the dot. Most people, including myself, are too tall to play this game comfortably. My solution to this was to start playing this game kneeling. This was initially done to have a more ergonomic hand placement on the button, but it ended up being a game changer. Not only does it save your wrist from pain, it also helps bring the game screen to your eye level. This is a huge advantage as it can help mitigate the distracting reflections of other neighboring games within the arcade. My final piece of advice would be to avoid playing the continue jackpot. It may be tempting to go for that second chance, but you're paying a second time to play the game for a lower jackpot. This feels like a trap and is an inefficient use of your arcade credits. You may as well just let the game reset and try again with the full jackpot. In the grand scheme of things, I believe Pop the Lock is one of the best redemption arcade games available. Having played it hundreds upon hundreds of times to farm tickets, the gameplay loop is simple, yet rewarding. It truly rewards the players who put in the practice. Even while playing on the maximum difficulty, I find it to still be straightforward to get consecutive jackpots. My only issue with Pop the Lock is how the game gets stuck while paying out and will not accept a new payment until the number of tickets to pay out has finished counting. You're locked out! If you want to play and someone recently scored a jackpot, you have to wait until the big number on the screen, which can be up to 2,000, slowly counts down to 0. Some machines are configured to deny payment from a different player when paying out, but some will unfortunately encounter a machine that will take your credits. So if you spent your credits and wanted to play, you'll have to just stand there, like a moron, unable to play until it decides you're allowed to. The winnings can stack if the same player is getting consecutive jackpots back to back. This can be amusing to do, but ends up being a nuisance to other arcade players who would like to try this game. It's an unfortunate oversight with how the payout was implemented. Overall, it's purely skill-based, has no hidden cheating gimmicks, and it's fun. For those reasons, I'm sending Pop the Lock to S tier on this arcade list.